The president of the government, Pedro Sánchez, is lying. What a surprise. Let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Precautionary Measures. And hey, how are we doing this Thursday? Honestly, it's been an exciting week with a lot of intense emotions, and today we've gone off script. With an alleged, denial from the president of the government, Pedro Sánchez, to the exclusive information that we revealed here on Precautionary Measures and on Libertad Digital. And I'm going to be very direct for all of you who are asking me, like, I don't know, what do you think? First of all, I'm totally calm, let it be on record, I'm totally calm. And second, Pedro Sánchez. Once again, and it's important to say this, the president of the government, Pedro Sánchez, lies. Pedro Sánchez lies. You already know that Pedro Sánchez is a liar and he keeps lying. You know that saying, right? When they asked him in an interview, why did you lie? No, I don't lie. I changed my mind. Well, you lie, and today he posted a tweet. Today, Thursday. Let's go over the timeline of events. So we can see and put into context the supposed denial in the form of a tweet that Pedro Sánchez posted this Thursday. Okay, I think it's important that everything is well organized chronologically. I'm going to tell everything just as it happened. And let everyone draw their own conclusions, and trust who they need to trust, and rely on who they need to rely on. Let's go to Sunday evening. I get in touch with the Secretary of State for Communication, Lydia Del Canto. I call her 2 or 3 times, around 8:30 in the evening more or less, to ask her about the information we're going to publish that night. And yes, indeed, the president of the government. Sánchez, suffers from a cardiovascular condition for which he has been receiving treatment for months at the Ramón y Cajal Hospital in Madrid. A treatment that would have been carried out with great discretion, entering at odd hours like a Sunday at 7 in the morning and so on. Through the kitchen dock, to undergo checkups, tests and so on, and to keep his condition under control. We know the name of this condition, but as you know, I haven't been able to reveal it, because at that point we would be invading his privacy. We simply say that it's a cardiovascular injury. I'll repeat this again. Remember that, because that detail is important, okay? So you can understand everything now. It's important to put the issue of cardiovascular injury on the table, okay? Remember that fact. So, cardiovascular condition or injury, because that's the term we use in the information, right? That was Sunday night. I didn't get a response from this woman, from Lydia Del Canto, the Secretary of State for Communication. I get in touch with another member of the government presidency, and a few minutes later another person calls me, also from Moncloa's communication. Someone named Miguel Ángel Marfulo. I'm not sure how to say it. This man at first doesn't want to identify himself. After I asked several times, he says his name is Miguel, but won't give me his last name, not even once, okay? Later, I found out and was able to confirm that it was indeed this Miguel Ángel Marfulo and this man, well, for a few minutes. So I repeat the question I sent via WhatsApp to the Secretary of State for Communication. We have received this information that Pedro Sánchez is being treated for a cardiovascular condition, and we would like to know your version of the facts before publishing the news or information, right? This man, with a tone that at times is rude, ironic, sarcastic, call it what you want, sometimes even mocking. He asked, are you involved in the president's private life or not? Private life, no. Because the president's health is a state matter, all citizens have the right to know it, as it can impact his decisions. He then asks me, and what condition does he have? And I say to him, well, I know it, but I can't tell you. Because in that case, we would be invading the president's privacy. And he says, oh, ironically, so you would invade, in that case, you would invade his private life. And then, since I see that things are getting out of hand, because in the end, he's trying to mess with me and all that, I tell him, look, I have no intention of messing with anyone, arguing with anyone, or debating. I'm calling to do my job. And before publishing any information, I have to ask for your side of the story. The other side, and for you to give me your version, deny it, confirm the information, do whatever you want, but I'm letting you know. He told me I'm an old dog and no, you'll publish it even if I deny it. So we left it there. I asked, so you're not adding anything? No, that's how it stays. I said, okay, well, thanks. See you later. Take care. That happened Sunday night. We published the information from Sunday to Monday in the early morning, and on Monday, well, L plural or however it is or whatever, which is the... You already know it's not just the government's media sewer, but Pedro Sanchez's and the Socialist parties. They published an alleged denial from a state secretariat for communication official at Moncloa, saying Pedro Sánchez obviously doesn't have that cardiovascular injury. And the exact words are, obviously not. That's the supposed denial. Some media outlets pick up our information, other media outlets pick up the supposed denial. And that's how things stay on Monday, okay? So what happens? Well, suddenly on Wednesday, yesterday, there's a qualitative leap in this story because I think Moncloa thought at first. Since there were some media outlets that had refused to publish the information, let's say the issue was already contained, the damage was limited. So what happens? Well, then the PP Congresswoman, Cayetana Alvarez de Toledo, shows up, and as I told you just yesterday, well, in the control session of Congress. She asked the Minister of Justice, Felix Bolaños, about this information. She asked the Minister of Justice, Felix Bolaños, about the health status of the Prime Minister and to declassify his medical records, etc. The Minister of Justice, Felix Bolaños, only responds by attacking Cayetana Alvarez de Toledo herself, saying how low she has fallen, etc., but he does not deny the information. Then the Minister of Transport, Oscar Puente, popularly known as Oscar, arrives, and he dedicates himself to insulting Libertad Digital and other media outlets critical of the government, and says that Libertad Digital, literally, is the biggest crap on the digital scene in Spain. We're talking about a minister, specifically the Minister of Transport. So you can see the level, the vulgarity, the crudeness, and the coarseness of Pedro Sanchez's government. That's how things stand. And then good old Patxi López comes out, this little character who has been living off politics for years, who used to mess with Pedro Sánchez during the primaries, saying, Pedrito, if you can't tell the difference between a nation and a nationality, etc. This man appeals, well, I don't know if to ethical and moral arguments and so on. He claims what we've published is fake and criticizes our ethics and morals, mentioning low blows. For Patxi López to say that, who is someone that just to keep living off the easy life of politics, to keep leeching off politics. He has given up such strong principles and values as condemning the party that is the heir to the terrorist group ETA, which murdered his own party colleagues. He let his Socialist Party make deals with Bildu to stay in power. I think he is already discredited for life just because of that. But anyway, there was Patxi López saying this and that and claiming this was fake news. First reference or attempt at denial by someone from the Socialist Party. Up until then, it was all insults and such, but no one had denied the information. So there you already have Patxi López, who is Pedro Sánchez's right-hand man in Congress, saying that this was fake news. That was yesterday, Wednesday, and today, Thursday, well, suddenly we woke up. I'm going to share it on screen with a tweet, attention, from the President of the government himself, Pedro Sánchez. 11:15 in the morning, February 26th. We asked for confirmation of this information on Sunday night. We published it early Monday morning, and the supposed denial from Pedro Sánchez comes on Thursday at 11:15 in the morning. As I said, I think they already believed that since many media outlets hadn't done their job and hadn't published this information, they thought the damage was already, limited. It was contained, but when Cayetana Alvarez de Toledo put it on the table yesterday, the situation changed. And then, this is what Pedro Sánchez says. Okay, he says, the far right and the ultra right have been announcing the end of this government since day one. Now, in addition, spreading fake news about my health. Note the word fake news. Wait, here comes another classic. The mudslinging machine always works the same way. They spread fake news from a pseudo-media outlet. We are a pseudo-media outlet, Libertad Digital and others. Their deputies amplify it, and their commentators muddy the conversation. I don't suffer from any cardiovascular disease, but even if I did, there would be no problem. What a denial! How forceful is this supposed denial? I don't suffer from any cardiovascular disease, but even if I did, there would be no problem. Pay attention to how forceful this statement is. Millions suffer from them but live normal lives thanks to the public services you're dismantling. I mean, the first part I agree with. There are millions of people who suffer from a cardiovascular injury, a cardiovascular disease, and live a normal life thanks to the public services that you are dismantling. So, are you mixing your illness with public services, with the Partido Popular, with the commentators? Or are you here mixing things up, making a huge mess? Notice what I was saying before. Cardiovascular disease. Why is this term disease important? Because you already know that politicians, especially the most dishonest ones like Pedro Sánchez, use any nuance to try to deny supposed information. They stick to the term cardiovascular disease. But we said he was being treated for a cardiovascular condition or a cardiovascular injury. Obviously, then there's the reference that if he has a cardiovascular injury, we could say that Pedro Sánchez is sick, but we use the terms cardiovascular condition and cardiovascular injury, and maybe this man is clinging to the term cardiovascular disease. Well, as I said, we know exactly what condition he has, okay? We're not going to say it for now because otherwise this could mean they might sue us for invading his privacy and so on, because that would already specify his diagnosis. Then, the president of the government of all Spaniards unfortunately concludes by saying, if their only way to oppose is by lying, it means we're really doing things well. There's still a long way to go for this government. Well, this is the big supposed denial that Pedro Sánchez has made. As I said, 5 days after I asked Moncloa and 4 days after I published the news, I think timing is important. And when they saw that this issue went beyond just journalism, and directly, well, it was being mentioned by a congresswoman in the Congress of Deputies. That's when they said, oh, we have to say something here because if not, suspicions are going to keep growing, and they've tried to put out this fire. Well, with this pseudo-denial, since he likes the term pseudo-media so much, I'm going to call this a pseudo-denial by saying this. Another point I have to mention is that we haven't received any correction either, okay? This means that we haven't received any correction. It means that if he sends us a correction and we publish it, he's right and we're not lying. No, but we haven't received any correction either. If we did receive a correction, we would see whether we publish it or not. But we haven't received any official notice, we haven't received any official denial other than this pseudo-denial via tweet from Pedro Sánchez. And of course, if there's any problem, we're completely calm, and if this issue had to be proven in court, I would prove it without any concern. Because I see that now many people are asking me, hey, oh wow, what Pedro Sánchez said, and I say, let's see, what value does it have today? The word of Pedro Sánchez. It makes me laugh, not just because Pedro Sánchez denied it. Pedro Sánchez lies more than he talks. He's the most dishonest president in Spain's history. If he claims he doesn't lie but only changes his mind, then he's lying about not lying. So, what can we expect? He'll likely try to deny the information. I mean, he tries with this pseudo-denial on Twitter, which honestly is a joke of a pseudo-denial, because we're back to the same thing. I mean, I don't suffer from any cardiovascular disease, but even if I did, there wouldn't be any problem. But what kind of pseudo-denial is this? Either you deny it or you don't, but putting this conditional here? But if that were the case, well, it's clear, isn't it? What is clear is that we, and I personally, are very calm, and we are waiting. We will wait for developments. And of course, I will continue investigating new sources of information that are coming to me about this. And we will keep moving forward because they are not going to shut us up and they are not going to silence us. So everyone can stay calm, because nothing is happening here and we already expected that this could happen. I mean, this is part of the plan, so it's not a setback or a change of anything. Okay, so I just wanted to share that message with you. And of course, we'll keep you updated with any news on precautionary measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez. That's it for this edition of Precautionary Measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez. I hope you liked the video and that everything was pretty clear. And of course, I want to once again express my huge thanks to all of you. We've already surpassed 100 members. Thank you so much for trusting me, for trusting Precautionary Measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez. And we're going to dedicate today's show precisely to the new members who have joined us. Also, some as Supremes and others as the Chosen. We're going to dedicate this to the Supremes, Juan Carlos Gutierrez and Ángel Luis Arias. Thank you very much for subscribing as Supremes, and also to Christina as one of the chosen. Really, thank you so much to all of you for that support that is also reaching us, of course, in the form of financial contributions through Bizun. Honestly, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart because I know each of you makes a big effort. That means a lot to me, that you show your trust in what we are publishing here, and that, of course, time will put everyone in their place. As you can see, I am completely calm, and we are also going to dedicate the program to the contributions made by Maria de la Paz Peinado and Beatriz Peraza. ¿Vale? They have also made other contributions, which I don't know if I had mentioned or not, but I mentioned them just in case. Also, Miguel Ángel Sánchez, Maria Julia López, and Sara Sea. Thank you all very much for your support, and I tell you, let's all stay calm, nothing is happening here. Everything is going as expected with no setbacks. Updates will be posted here on Precautionary Measures with Miguel Ángel Pérez. As I always tell you, the most important thing is that this information reaches everyone, because information is power. See you soon.